Alrighty, so welcome. Rebecca, it's great to have you here. And to those who are joining us live here, or if you're joining us on IGTV or YouTube later, hello. My name is Melanie. I'm one of the co-founders and managing partners of Volition. And we do weekly founder chats, and I've been doing this since, I always forget. I'd like to say May. It could have been earlier. I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, it had to do with everything that was going on in the spring with COVID. I mean, still going on, but when things kind of ramped up in the spring, we reached out to the community and realized that one way that we could support in a way that was needed and wanted was by amplifying founders, by amplifying ecosystem partners through our Instagram as well as other places. So that's why we're here, as Sabrina's saying, it was April. All right, so in April we started these. Thank you. And I'm really happy to have here today Rebecca. Is it Rochon or Rochon?
Yeah,
How do
it's
I
Rochon,
pronounce?
but I pronounce it wrong. I know that.
Oh.
French, like my background is French Canadian, but half of us didn't learn French, like half my family, and then half of us were raised that way. So I'm sure it's supposed to be Rochon, but I butcher
Rochon.
it as a, you know, English speaker. I probably say Rochon all the time. Rebecca Rochon, but yeah, it's either one works.
All
I'm
right.
not offended by
Okay.
anything. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so Rebecca, I'll just go with Rebecca. She's the co-founder of Pivot and Pilot, which we're going to learn all about here today. And in full transparency, Pivot and Pilot is a good friend of ours. They are a sponsor of our events, as well as we're doing a brand refresh project right now with their team, which I'm super excited about, and everyone's going to see lots more about come December, January-ish. So
Exciting.
really excited to have you here. Yes. Okay, so to start us off, oh, for those who haven't been to one of these chats before, so you know we have about kind of 30 minutes of some casual interview style conversation, but please feel free to ask questions and engage in the chat. I know I need to remind everyone that you can do that. Please do so. And then, so we're going to talk a little bit about the origin story of Pivot and Pilot, how you work with startups, tips you have, what COVID has been like, and a few other things. So that's what that's going to look like for everyone who hasn't been here yet. So Rebecca, let's get started. Let's jump in. I would love to know a little bit more about, I'm sure people would like to know about that origin story of Pivot and Pilot, where this came from, and what is your role within it?
Yeah, and just to give you guys some context of what Pivot and Pilot is, I mean, definitely Melanie's given some already. We were helping them with their branding, but yeah, we help food, beauty, and wellness brands stand out and capitalize on their first impression through branding, packaging design, and e-commerce strategies. So we're a great partner for anyone who's launching a product that is interested in having something that's retail ready, that's ready to be dominate the e-commerce market, and really like have a thorough understanding not only of the design and the market positioning of what you're doing, but also taking care of all of those kind of smaller pieces like making sure it's compliant and regulated, or making sure that your shipment boxes are light as possible and small as possible, and all of those kinds of fun things as well. So yeah, like that kind of ties into our origin story, in that when we started, we were much more focused on serving anyone and everyone who needed a brand, and we were known as the brand guys. So we still are, we still have that reputation, we love that. But as we grew over the years, we started to find our clients were asking for more specific help, or more, they wanted that, they were craving, they were lost when it came to finishing off a product. If we were like, hey, here's the packaging design. Yeah, it looks beautiful. The creative direction's great. The brand is really targeted, but we need help finding a packaging manufacturer, and there are a million to choose from, and we don't know how to do this. Do you guys do that? And so now we do, so over the years, we've really refined our expertise to be able to serve our clients better and make sure that they get something from start to finish. And a lot of guidance through all of those other kind of loopholes, like certification reviews and, all of the other things that come along with e-commerce, like helping pick their favorite merchant or the right merchant for them, or, helping them set up if they're going to be in Canada and the US, then how do we navigate that and all the options around that. So yeah, it's definitely grown over the time. And when we started, yeah, that's kind of how we've grown over the years. And I started with my business partner, Alejandro. We met in school, we're really close, and we have that really, he's really on the design side, and he's that master of, design and detail. typography nerd, all that kind of thing. And then I'm much more on
Yeah.
the business side, business development, making sure people understand what we do. Because as you might know, branding can be quite difficult to communicate to people or to sell. So I'm kind of more on that side. And uh,
Right.
yeah, and we slowly built up the business from, in our place to then growing to an office and a team of 6. And then for COVID, we went back to our homes. But yeah,
Yep.
we did. Yeah, but we're still strong and yeah, good, solid team and just starting to grow a bit. But we'll definitely get into how COVID affected everything later. But that's
Yeah.
basically the origin story to where we are today. And it's been kind of interesting. COVID's kind of been like a reset of our origin almost. And yeah, it's been interesting.
Right.
But yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah,
So I know I'm just because you've just brought that up, I kind of just want to jump into that and hear a little
sure.
bit about what the last 8 months has looked like for you as a company,
Yeah.
and also with the people you work with.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a crazy time because I would say in general, our whole business really thrives on optimism. It's about launching something new or starting a new product or really leveling up your marketing or your business or the way you're communicating your brand and your value. And so it was really, when it first hit, it was quite a pause because a lot of brands were really trying to just sort out, okay, as much as we want to launch this product, right now we have to figure out what to do with our staff and what we're
Yeah.
doing going
Yeah.
forward and rethink our game plan. So there's a little bit
How
of
to
a
just
pause
get
there.
through, and we all thought it was going to
Yeah.
be over in 2 to 3 months, so there was that as well. How to get
Yeah.
through this next month. Yeah.
I for some reason knew it was going to be about a year. And I think just some people were telling, maybe, I don't know, I just heard through the grapevine or something, or I was like, get ready for at least a year or something. So
Yeah.
we immediately let go of our office and we had a few contracts kind of pause and things like that. But after a few months of, grinding through, we've definitely, gotten back. And I'd say that now people are really, really searching for more online solutions. They're more aware of their online presence than ever.
Right. Yeah, of
We've
course.
always been saying, and with branding, it's about capitalizing on your first impression. And honestly, your first impression is so important. But now people really, really realize that. So it's really cool, actually, and especially with e-commerce, we've been seeing a huge rise in our helping clients with that. But it's been really it makes sense because now people really understand, especially because of how little attention we have online, that first impression, that first minute really needs to be impactful, or it's going to
Mm.
be, or you're going to lose their interest. And another thing that's really interesting that I think a lot of people are realizing now more than ever is that the way you show up online and the way that you, like, let's say you have a plan to get somewhere in 5 years as a company. If you can
Yeah.
represent that now, people will literally accept it. People will literally, that is what they see you as, right? So if you say all of a sudden, hey, I'm taking on clients for this, this new consulting service we have, and we're launching this new product, and we have all these great values. If you show versus tell what you're doing, and you show what you're like the value right away, people will immediately trust it. And so that's the concept
Mm.
that we've definitely been saying for years and believing in for years, but with COVID it's really solidified in people's minds the impact of that. Yeah, so that's been really
Yeah.
interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So what's kind of the future? You're talking about that if you have a vision for 5 years from now as a company and how you want to talk about that online and make that a reality. If you were to create that for Pivot and Pilot, what is the vision for 5 years from now?
Well, I would like us to be a lot more like we started a YouTube channel, so that's a really great asset for you guys to follow if you're looking to start a business or if you're a consumer
Mm.
good looking for more detailed stuff. We have, anything from our experience as entrepreneurs to showing some of our work to tips on, branding. We're going to be putting out a lot more videos on our YouTube channel as well. But you can take a look at what we have so far if you want to learn about like how to stand out in your market and the difference between even things like the difference in between regulations in Canada and the US and that kind of thing. So we
Right.
go practical and, broad. And so I want that to be thriving, and I'd love to be able to get to reach more people. And we're also really interested in serving people internationally. So in 5 years, I definitely see us serving a lot more clients that are interested in exporting their product and that are, you know, multi-international, which is definitely another trend we're seeing growing from COVID in terms of demand for our work. It's been, yeah, they're just like, everyone's looking for new markets and to expand. It's like everyone's thinking bigger than their backyard now because everyone's at home and they're online. So yeah, it's yeah, a lot of our visions are kind of tied into like how we can serve the market, and it is hard to really picture what that vision would be in the future, but especially with so much uncertainty. But definitely I want us to be more leaders online in our field for sure. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. That's really great to hear in terms of like getting into new markets yourself as well as other people looking into that. Because I remember, especially because we're both actually, are you from Vancouver?
I'm from Toronto originally, but I've been in Vancouver for about 10 years. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, in Vancouver, when I first got into the startup ecosystem 5 years ago, there was, and I would say like arguably until maybe COVID happened, that kind of concept of staying within Vancouver. And there wasn't a lot of like thinking outside of that space with startups that we were familiar with. And it was interesting like going across Canada and meeting entrepreneurs in like rural Canadian towns who they can't sell to the people in their towns. They automatically were thinking about these other markets. And then I go back to Vancouver and it was like, why are you not thinking about other markets? Like I get this is your home and start here, you have your connections, but there's so many opportunities. And then once I moved to Europe, I was even more so like fell in love with this idea of creating connections across these geographic kind of barriers that are in our mind. I mean, also totally legitimate. And there's you know, it sounds like you help people through those legitimate barriers to get into new markets, but it's navigable, right? So I think that's great that you do that. And I don't think I actually knew so much on the e-commerce side what you do and like helping people get into new markets. That's really interesting. And I'm sure there's people, if not watching this live, but later or if you know someone in the audience, if you're out there and you're looking to get into new markets or you know someone that is, I know it's a very difficult kind of moment in that business journey and trying to figure out how to get there and all the pieces.
Like for example, even with like the difference between selling in Toronto versus Vancouver, you know, when we do focus groups before a product launches, we'd like to, especially if you're launching in a certain demographic you're not familiar with, it's good to do a focus group. And so when we conduct those, we really find that, you know, for example, in Vancouver, people are so conscious and aware of their impact on the earth and if the product is sustainable. Whereas in Toronto, it wasn't as much of a priority. It was a little bit more to do with practicality of the bag and that kind of thing is found. But I mean, that's just one example, but it's very important that, yeah, there's definitely strategy around entering a new market. And then of course, like, the compliancy is different too. Like in the States, it's a lot different. They're a little bit more lax, a little bit more lenient. And then in Canada, we're super strict. And we also need to have French on our label and all of those types of things. It definitely could get a bit dry and stuff, but it's important that, you know, I think it's important for people to know that that's something we've worked really hard at, right? Like in getting our clients to have that kind of one-stop shop for those solutions. So they're not just getting something that is impactful and really establishes their market positioning, but also something that is compliant and they don't have to worry about all of those kinds of little details that slow you down in your launch, right? Especially in a new market. So yeah, we're a great export partner. And I think that now more than ever, people are really thinking about how they can get their product in other places.
Yeah.
And expand their market, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So I just want to take a moment, welcome everyone who's joined since I last said hello. My name is Melanie, and we're talking to Rebecca, who's the co-founder of Pivot and Pilot. And please feel free to ask questions as we go along as well. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the origin story of Pivot and Pilot and the different areas that you work in and how you help people get into new markets, how COVID impacted you and the people you work with, and what your vision is, which is very fun. I'd like to know, for those who might be curious, obviously we work with a lot of startups and a lot of people in our audience are early to growth stage startups. So what does it look like working with you as an agency? What does that mean and what does it look like if I were to want to work with Pivot and Pilot?
Well, yeah, I mean, the first step is usually, I mean, things happen all the time out of order and everything, but I mean, generally speaking, if it was like an ideal world, you would be starting with your brand, and you'd be thinking, we'd first be reaching through and trying to really hone in on who you are, who you're for, and and why you're different, and make sure that all of that is super, super clear from an instant, recognition. So we really believe in, and a lot of advice I'd give to, new business owners too, is show versus tell. Really try to make an impact in the least amount of time possible. So if that's first what we want to know is their goals in the long term, what they want to be seen as, how they want to make that impact in the market. And we certainly guide them through that as well if they don't have a sense of that yet. For example, if a client comes to us with a granola bar and we're like, okay, this is great. This granola bar tastes great. It is healthy. It's gluten-free. It's keto-friendly. It's the whole 9 yards. Okay, great. Well, we don't want to dilute the messaging by trying to appeal to everyone and trying to get them to memorize all of those value propositions, right? And that's a trap that a lot of owners can get into. So what we tend to do is we'll be like, okay, we can make this look like a product for kids, to be packed in their lunch boxes and appeal to parents, or we could, go put it in appeal to athletes and put it in an aisle for the keto friendly aisle, and we can go for that market positioning, right? And that will really determine the look. So Pivot and Pilot really isn't a place where you come for a certain aesthetic or a certain look. We don't have like a look that everyone wants to get, and that's why to it. It's more about how can we communicate your unique, authentic market positioning in the fastest way. So with this granola bar example, if it's for kids, that's going to really determine, and your brand and your market position really determines how the rest of your business is going to flow, right? So if you are going to go for, okay, we're going to target moms and we're going to be packed in lunch boxes, you're going to need that peanut-free certification on there, right? To get even considered to be packed in a box, right? You're going to want to partner with influencers who are moms. You're going to want to create a whole campaign about the health of your kids and the strategy around that. And then if you're going for the keto sports aisle, then maybe you're not going to need the peanut-free certification right at the front, right? Maybe it's on the back.
Right.
So, it's funny how I think people think of a brand as a logo and a color scheme, but really it's a way of showing versus telling. Like, how can you communicate that? So if your product's expensive and luxurious, that's a certain type of look. We can make it look very luxurious. If it's something that's approachable and it's meant to be something that's a bit more affordable, we can still make it look awesome, but it needs to communicate that. You don't want it to be gold infused, right? And black and that kind of thing if it's going to be a direction. So that's a lot of what we do, and then building it out from there. So building out the strategy from that, and that would be an ideal kind of client relationship. And we just but really clients come to us at all different stages. They might have, I was
going to say ideal, but what's the reality with startups? When do you find startups are actually coming to you?
Yeah, exactly. So startups often come to us and they're like, you know what, we need the highest impact thing we can work on right now is a pitch deck. Can we, we have a good sense of our brand. Can we do a pitch deck? Like, let's make the pitch really, and that ties into what you guys do as well. Like, it's really important you're going to raise a lot of money off of a pitch deck that you can then use to fuel your other priorities of your marketing in your business, right? So often it'll be that, or maybe they'll have a need to get a website up really quick, and then we're like, hey, you don't really have a brand, and then they'll kind of understand that they might have a color scheme picked out and they have a sense of what they want to do, but it's not being instantly communicated, right? Like, it could always be. So like it comes all over the place, or a packaging they need, and sometimes we even help packaging companies that they have a brand already, it's all established, and they just need us to follow that brand guideline and make it compliant for Canada, because they're trying to get to Canada, right? So sometimes we just get clients like that too. It's all over the place, or an interior design is already done and they need a brand to match the interior design, or whatever order it's in. But ideally you kind of like start from the brand and guide through it. And we do often get clients like that, but we get clients at all stages. Oh, and another thing to bring up is that with COVID too, what's been really cool is seeing how, and it already was like this, it was already on trajectory for this, but there's so many business owners that are these small dynamic teams that are popping up and getting so much accomplished. So that's another thing that we've been really finding with our clients is that, like, it doesn't matter if you're a team of 20 or a team of 1, like, you can make yourself feel and look as legitimate as something that feels like you have a whole team behind you. So like that's been another really big way that we've been serving clients lately. It's just like, people are like, hey, like, I understand I'm a one person team, but I don't want to feel like it. I want to feel like I what I want to be in 5 years, like with the whole team around me. So I want that as fast as possible. So if I show that now, people just accept that. And that's definitely something else that we've been seeing. Yeah.
I love that. I really like your kind of like ethos around show don't tell. That's a classic storytelling tool, I guess, or framework that we teach in our pitches as well.
Yeah.
No, and it's like, and with our pitches as well, we always say show don't tell. Like, don't list everything, every feature you have. Don't list, like, don't tell me this is how I bring you value. Show that in some way and show us how you use the product. Don't tell me how you use the product, because I need to be able to like be there with you and like really get how to engage with that product or service or whatever it happens to be. So show don't tell is also something we say all the time at Volition, and so I really appreciate that you also apply that to branding and to building or communicating your vision as a brand and communicating to the audience that you want to reach as well, which is really like I love the idea of reverse engineering, kind of like thinking about your vision and your end goal and your audience and then building back from there, which is something we do with our pitches as well. So I think that's great.
Another great lens that people can really use, it's kind of along the same vein of why niching down on your messaging is so important, is just think about how much your attention is, people's attention is the most valued asset in this new world. And, you know, our attention's being fought for constantly. It's a really valuable asset. And so if you're thinking from the other end, like, don't tell them a list of things to memorize about your business. If you want to be memorable and stick in people's minds, really be clear on 2 or 3 things that you're known for and just hammer that in. And you know, another big trap is that people go, okay, our brand is great quality. Doing generic statements like that too is just
what does that mean?
Like, it almost makes you think, oh, is it good quality? Why would they say that? Lululemon would
why do they
exactly. Yeah, like Lululemon would never put out a pair of pants and say, oh, they're great quality. They'll say what they would do, right? And why they're different.
How they make you feel, or the transformation that they bring to your life. Yeah.
So that's a good way to think of it. That's a good way to think of your brand too, is how can you really step it up in that way and find a way to really stand out. So thinking about things like, what are some hesitations people might have around joining my brand or buying my product? What are some things that might make them hesitate? How can you confront that in your value proposition in order to get your message across? So if something is very expensive and you perceive that maybe people might go, oh, it's expensive, I don't want to do it, make one of your value propositions about how they're saving money, right, by going with your option. And then that is being confronted right away. So your brand is also a way to communicate the value of your product without you having to explain it 100 times, right? It should just be explained and clear. And then they come to you for like a couple questions or to sort of seal the deal, essentially, right?
Yeah. Amazing. Alrighty, so I'm aware we have about 5 minutes left. So again, hello to those who have joined since I last checked in. Great to have you here. So just a couple of things I still would love to know from you. So I feel like you've already given us a lot of like kind of really good advice and tips about how to approach marketing and branding or building your brand and ways to think about that, especially as a startup, but for people who are kind of like either building their brand or refreshing or whatever that looks like. But I'd love to know, like, as you as an entrepreneur, what are some tips that you would have for your peer entrepreneurs, and particularly those who are just starting out?
I think in general, what I see and I do a lot of mentoring too, like through FWE and thing, like it's like definitely it's a lot about you and your life. Like, make sure that you have a balanced and clear life. Like, this is a long run and there's a lot of ups and downs. So make sure you're passionate about what you're doing, because otherwise if it's just purely for, you know, money or something like that, you're going to be like, oh my God, this was way too exhausting for the money, right? It kind of has to be a really inherent passion that yeah, you're able to be okay with the ups and downs, and that you feel really, really proud of what you're doing. Because like there's going to be haters too, right? And people that are trying
Yeah.
to bring you down, and you want to make sure that you have the ability to push through that and believe in what you're doing.
Right.
So that's a big one, I'd say, in terms of more like, yeah, kind of like personal advice to an entrepreneur. And then from a brand perspective, I would say, yeah, just get really clear on what your brand is for, like who you're for and why you're different, and who you are as a company, because people will, the kinds will come, and the customers will come. Just be super, super consistent and continue to fight through, and push your messaging through, and push those 3 or 4, and you can change them up over time too. You can experiment, but just like push
Yeah.
through the messages and be consistently showing up, because you will see progress. It's just a lot of it's about patience. And I think we're living in this world where there's a lot of get rich quick schemes out there. Oh my gosh, am I seeing so many of that through this time? Like build a click funnel, build like these trendy things. And it's really about pushing and just staying true and improving and having
Mm.
mind. And
Listening to your audience, testing things. Yeah.
absolutely. And I think you guys have done a job at that. Like you guys have been consistent, and I think that it's now really paying off. Like you guys are doing, yeah. So it's
Yeah,
just
it's been a ride.
yeah. So you don't want to do something
Yeah.
for money or a get rich quick scheme or anything like that, because it's just gonna make you so exhausted, and you're just gonna be like, what? Why am
Yeah.
I be
Yeah.
excited? It's a lot of work. Yeah.
It's a lot of work. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. For both like the personal advice and from the brand perspective as well. That's really great. So if people want to get in touch with you personally,
Yeah.
and or with Pivot and Pilot, what is the best place that they can reach you?
So the best thing would be to follow our YouTube channel and our Instagram. So Pivot and Pilot is the handle.
Okay.
Yeah, like our YouTube is going to be it is very active, but it's going to be very, very active this year. We have a lot of videos coming out, so definitely subscribe and turn on your notifications. And then me personally, I'm Rebecca Rochon, so Rebecca.Rochon on Instagram.
Okay.
As well as LinkedIn for sure. So like Rebecca, more so than Pivot and Pilot on LinkedIn. I'm a bit more active on LinkedIn myself, and yeah. So.
Okay. Check out, so find Rebecca Rochon on LinkedIn, Rebecca.Rochon on Instagram, and check out Pivot and Pilot on YouTube, which we're also growing our YouTube channel and subscriptions. So I know the like get on there and subscribe, please.
Sure.
And I'm going to say that for Pivot and Pilot as well. And I'm going to go check it out because I didn't know you had a YouTube channel. So that's exciting. And also check out pivotandpilot.com.
Great.
I have here as well. So is there anything that we haven't touched on here today that you wanted to mention before we go?
Not really. I think that it's, well, one thing that we are doing too is we do have free strategy sessions. So if you do have, I'm going to be recording those from 45 minutes to 30 minutes soon, but if you guys will be doing those in a very helpful way during COVID, we launched them, and it's just for us to give people advice and get them on the right track during this time. And it's just a free session where we talk it out and we figure out what you're honing on some issues and give some advice. So definitely feel too. Yeah.
Okay, great. And I think if you go to pivotandpilot.com, that's kind of like a pop-up when you first get there. So if you head over there and you see that pop-up, then don't click it off right away, because that is the free strategy session that they are providing right now, which is awesome.
Yeah,
really helpful.
The COVID-19 resources too, if you click that button.
Right. Yes, I saw that. Top right, COVID-19 resources. That's great. Thank you for providing that to the community.
That's a really valuable way to get some one-on-one time with us, which is awesome. And then kind of we're looking for a DIY thing, then go browse through our YouTube channel. But yeah.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. So one last question just to wrap us up here. I always ask everyone, what is one thing that brings you joy right now?
Well, definitely my dogs. And then I would say the business. I am just so happy with how much like other business owners have stepped up to help each other at this time. It's been so beautiful, and all these, like, I've just had so many people step up and be like, oh yeah, let's talk for an hour, like let's talk for 3 hours, like let's figure it out. And
yeah,
giving me joy how there's like this community feeling that's come out of this time and this hardship, and I think that's just going to continue. So I mean, everyone, like, don't hold everything close and try to be competitive or be led by your ego. Really know that there are so many people out there willing to help you, and I think in the long run, especially when times get tough, those are the people that are going to come back and help you. So it's like, that's a kind of a piece of advice wrapped into a piece of joy, but something that I've just been like, wow, like it makes you feel really good to have a whole community. So yeah,
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's been something for us as well. Definitely, the Volition community, the ecosystem as a whole has been incredible, and we've all really appreciated it. Alrighty, so let's wrap up here today. I know we're a couple minutes over, and we have a meeting we need to get to. So, thank you so much, Rebecca, for being here today. It was great to hear about. If you didn't catch the beginning, please do go back. We heard about the origin story of Pivot and Pilot, what COVID has looked like for them and the people they've been working with. Got a lot of like incredible like educational gems in there around branding and building your brand, building your strategy, thinking about getting into new markets, all of these things. So it's really great to hear. And we really appreciate your time, Rebecca, and sharing some of your wisdoms. So we'll have to have you back and share some more of those. But I was really excited to have this opportunity to introduce you to the community. So thank you so much
for having me. This is a lot of fun. And yeah, you're a great interviewer. I feel like you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it was great. And I hope it was helpful. So yeah, awesome.
Sounds good. All right, cool. Thanks everyone, and I will see you back here on Tuesday. I think is our next IG Live founder chat. So I'll see you back here then, and otherwise have a really great rest of your week. Bye everyone.